Hey, Mama, welcome back to Fun Rich Mom. I am Mitch Blackford. And have you ever felt like you are just trying to create a change in your life, reinvent yourself, and it's overwhelming and you're not really exactly excited about who you are right now, but you don't really exactly know where to start or what you want to change or even how are you going to do this? Well, I'll tell you, I have been there and then some. So today I'm going to share my hack of how I reinvented myself. With that, let's get started. Before I get into the hack, I want to share a little story that tells a little bit about how this came into being. A long time ago, I used to be single for a long time, right? If you've been with me, you know the story of how basically there wasn't anything for like an 8-year period of time. And then I changed things. And it was during this time of the suddenly people were coming into my life where I had a couple of friends. Andrew was one of them. No, we were not dating at the time. And another friend, and they had come over one night. And this friend, he always was in love with someone. And our kind of little joke was, I think she's kind of into me. And of course, it usually didn't work out. So one night he and Andrew came over and he was just talking about how things weren't going right and why he couldn't find a woman and just going on and on and on. And in that moment, I was just like, listen, it's because you haven't written the lists. And he just stopped and he said, what do you mean? I said, there's the list. You need to write the list. And he says, well, I've written the list. And I said, what list have you written? He says, well, I've written the list of, who I want to be with. Like, who is she? What's she like? All that thing. And I'm like, well, great. You did that, but you didn't write the second list. And he said, what do you mean the second list? And I said, the list of who you need to become in order to attract this person into your life. So I proceeded to tell him a little bit about this list and what I had done in my life. Well, it kind of went in one ear on him and out the other, but I'll tell you on Andrew, it went in one ear and went right to his heart. And boy, he was taking some notes. I didn't even know it, but he started putting that list strategy to work. Well, that may be why we got married, because he just got to work on himself and he was willing to reinvent some parts of him that he knew he needed to change in order to be together. Now, I'm not saying I was this great, wonderful person, but there were some things that he had going on in his life that just didn't really work with my long-term vision of who I wanted to be in my life. So that kind of breaks down the how I hacked this brain to reinvent who I was. Because, like I said, there was this long period of time where I was just on the struggle bus with everything in my life. It just seemed like no matter what I was doing in any area that I touched, it just was not good. It was wrong. It was boring. It was not working. It was failing. It was missing the mark. It was all of those things. And I just felt even overwhelmed at knowing like, I don't even know how to start to change myself to become this person that I want to be. And so this list, when I came across this in a book, it was about dating. It was a dating book. The two lists idea was just something that struck a chord in me. It just made so much sense. Because of course, going back to dating, we always all know like who is it that I want to be with and what's he like and this and this and that, but we never really bring it back to ourselves. Well, if I'm looking for this 10, this imaginary 10, this wonderful Prince Charming, why would this person who has worked hard on himself to be this person, why would he want to be with me, this person who has not worked on herself and has nothing going for her? Where's the match? It doesn't happen. Like if you're putting a lot of energy and effort into who you are and trying to improve your life, you want to be with someone who's also putting in energy and effort into their life to make a better life, right? Because that's the trajectory that you're going on. It's no fun to be with someone who's just kind of dragging you down. And that was who I was at the time. I was the drag. I was the person that was just bringing everyone down. And so this concept of the list, I finally started to get it was, oh, I need to figure out who I need to become in order to attract this person. But really, I need to figure out who I need to become in order for me to be just excited about living my life as me. Because until I'm attracted to myself and excited about myself, Ain't nobody else going to be excited or attracted to me. And so I used this list to start the foundation of where I could start making changes and reinvent myself. So basically, what it is imagine you're writing this list of this person. If you're married, I'm married, you can just imagine the idea of before you were married, okay, who was it that I wanted to be with? You were going to think about them physically, mentally, emotionally, financially, spiritually. These are the 5 areas that we are just going to break it down. But now, instead of a person you want to be with, we're thinking of who is the ideal person that I want to be? What would she be like physically, mentally, emotionally, financially, and spiritually? And just start to dream big. Don't put caps on it. Don't start thinking, oh, no, 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 I could never do that. No, take that thinking away. Really write it down. Okay, physically, the ideal me would be this, right? Obviously, we're not going to change height. Let's not get into things that we can't change, but write down things that are changeable, if that makes sense. Like I can change my hair, I can change my weight, I can change my exercise patterns, I can change my eating patterns. Those are things that I can change. I can't change my height. I can't change, my eye color, or let's say I wear different contact lenses, but you're getting the point, right? Look at things that are actually things that you could do. So, I want to be this active. I want to be someone who exercises. These are the type of exercises that the ideal me would probably do. I want to be someone who has energy. I want to be someone who wakes up early. I want to be someone who rests and takes care of my body. I want to be someone who likes the body that I'm in. Whatever it is, like all of these things that your ideal you physically would be. Then we move mentally. Okay, mentally, what is the ideal version of me like? And if you can't think of it, like if it's too hard to think of it for yourself, think about someone that you know that you really admire, that you would want to model after, that you would love if they would mentor you. Use that person as a guide reference. And we're not trying to be that person. We're just borrowing some of their characteristics that we really like, that we can start to incorporate into our life in the way that we come across, right? So mentally, like, am I a person who likes to study? Do I want to continue to grow? How is that going to show up? How does this ideal person continue to grow mentally in her life? What sort of conversations does she have? How did she get to that point? And then emotionally, how does she handle herself emotionally? How does she, relate to her kids? How does she relate to her husband? How does she relate to her friends, her coworkers? And how does she handle and adjust to struggles and difficulties, or when challenges come up, or when conflict comes up? How does this ideal person, how would she manage herself through those emotionally? Financially, where is she at? Spiritually, where is she at? So you're starting to get the idea. You're just really writing down all of those characteristics in those 5 areas, breaking it down and really getting a clear picture of who this ideal person is. And I know you're looking at this list going like, this person doesn't exist. Like not in any fairy tale. That's okay. We're dreaming right now. We're being big. We're being bold. It's okay. Don't, like I said, limit yourself. Now that you've written down all of these features in the different areas, go back and look at what are the deal breakers for you? What is something that your ideal person just would not stand for in her life? So going back to the story of me and Andrew, when we first met, smoked. Well, that was 100% a deal breaker for me. I had already grown up watching both of my grandparents die long, slow deaths from smoking related diseases. I hated being surrounded by the smoke every time we went there. I didn't like the smell of just anything about smoking. To me, it's a deal breaker. I did not want that in my life. I didn't want to experience any of that stuff that goes with it. I didn't want any kids that I had in the future to, have higher chances of being smokers. For me, that's a deal breaker. And so when Andrew was listening, as I was talking to our friend, he realized, hey, if I want to be with her, smoking is not the person that she will be with. Do I want to continue to be a smoker? Is that the ideal version of me? Or do I want to be someone who doesn't have to rely on this and can put it to the side and focus on other things and be the person that she would be attracted to? And so he quit cold turkey. I mean, I know that's not something that everyone can do, but he literally went and quit cold turkey that night because it was a deal breaker. And he didn't want to have that deal breaker ruining any potential of getting in between us. Okay. So it's the same thing when you're looking at your list. What are the deal breakers that you realize that you, in your ideal version, right now, again, we can just be picturing just an ideal person. What would be deal breakers for them physically, mentally, spiritually, emotionally, financially? Write those down so you get really clear about what needs to be eliminated. And then also write on, pick the areas that are flexible, that you have some flexibility in. Hey, this would be really cool. If we're not quite there, we're still an ideal person. We're still good. And then also write down, what are the must-haves? What are the ones that you have to have on that list for you to really feel like this is the ideal person? Okay. Now we're just getting even more clear focus around who this person is, what they stand for, how they act, everything about them, right? The more crystal clear we can make this picture for us, the easier of a target it is for us to go to it, if that makes sense, right? If something's kind of blurry or far off or unclear, then that's hard for us to go to. But when something is super crystal sharp and clear, then that is easy for us. And that's what we're really doing when we're narrowing in on this list. We're really fine tuning it and making it super clear so that we know exactly where we're heading. Now that we have this list in place, we know our deal breakers, we know our flexible areas, and we know our must haves. Now, what we're going to go through is we've created this ideal person. Now you get to go through and grade it on a scale of 1 to 10 on each of those things that you wrote down. Where am I at? Ugh, this is like the knife in the heart part. Like, no, I don't want to know. Don't make me do this. And it's important for you to recognize where you're at. Otherwise, you can't really make the changes to get to this point of who you want to be and who you want to become. And you need to be honest. And I'm going to tell you this on both sides. You need to be honest with sometimes, like when I was sitting 20 pounds heavier, I was okay. I was comfortable in my body. If I lived that way, I probably would have been fine. But honestly, if I was really being honest, that wasn't the ideal version of me. That's not where I wanted to be. And I also knew if I was comfortable sitting there at that weight, I'd probably allow myself to keep gaining weight, as the years creep by and holidays come around and all of that sort of stuff. So being honest with myself in that physical area of my body, that was not my ideal me. So I had to grade that according to that. On the flip side, I also had to be honest and not beat myself up, right? Because sometimes we're really, really hard on ourselves and we don't recognize where we are kind of doing great and we're doing well. So be honest on both sides. Be honest on the areas that you need work on and be honest on the areas that you are doing well. Recognize that it is okay to realize you're doing well, that you've got something that you're like, yes, this is the area that I am rocking in. So be honest when you're going through and doing that scale for yourself, because that, again, is going to give you a clearer roadmap, helping you get to that ideal version of yourself. So now that we've graded it, you made it through. You made it through. Congratulations. High five. High five. You did it. Give yourself a pat on the back. Go jump up and down for joy. It's worth it. That was hard work. Now we can look at it and we can see where are the areas that you're scoring high in, rock on, good job. And where are the areas that you're like, holy guacamole, this is not a good area for me. And now you know exactly where to start making the changes. Instead of going like, I just don't know what to do. I don't even know where to start. Who do I want to be? Now we have a map and we have the directions. We can go right there to those areas that we see, oh my gosh, I have some scores of 2 and 3 down here. That is really low. That's not good. And just think, you've already looked at the list. What would my ideal person do? How would my ideal person act in this situation? And now you know exactly what you need to do. And if you go back to my episode last week where we talked about habits, now you can look at what goal you're setting and what habits you need to create and make them sticky in your life in order to raise your score here in this area of your life to become that ideal version of you. And just like I said with habits last week, break it down, chunk it down into little bite-sized pieces so you're not eating the whole list at once and having to become this perfect person that doesn't exist and probably never will. Let's be real. odds are we won't achieve everything on this list. But in our journey to get there, man, we're going to become pretty darn incredible. And we're going to do some amazing things. So have grace for yourself and break it down to the thing that, okay, this is the area that I'm struggling in. This one right here, I know I can start working on this. I feel comfortable working on that. I can get behind it. I know how to incorporate this into my day and create that sticky habit where I can start raising the score here. And work on that and give yourself time on that. Work on that. Create a time frame, just like we talked about last week. Create a time frame so that it's not like, oh, it took me 20 years down the road to just do one little change. We can do it a little bit faster, but give yourself a realistic, be smart, right? Specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and the time frame. So be smart about creating which habit that we're going to start working on to raise our score, and then start building. Okay, I've got this habit rolling pretty well. I've worked on this. What's my next thing on the list that I can add onto it that makes sense, that will complement it, that will go along with what I'm already working on, that I can build up even more? And this is where it gets really cool because it's going to start off feeling really slow and clunky and chunky. Not chunky, clunky. I already said that. But that's how it's going to feel in the beginning because you have no momentum. You're just starting, trying to gain that willpower to get the train moving. That is the hardest part. We've talked about like the roller coaster ride. That first part when you're just chunk up that roller coaster, it feels, oh my gosh, almost impossible, like we're never going to make it. You keep moving, you keep doing little small steps, and that's when you'll start to see momentum suddenly turns and gets into your favor. It's crazy what happens. You feel like you're just doing little things and you're kind of going nowhere, and then all of a sudden it's like things just start to fall into place and it becomes easier. As long as you stay in action, it gets easier and easier. Will there be bumps in the road? Heck yes, there will be bumps in the road. You're already equipped to deal with those bumps in the road, though, because you have your roadmap and you know what you're doing. You just get back on track. And like I said, when that momentum is on your side, it's crazy how it starts to show up. And not only in the area that you were working on, it will show up in other areas too. Because as you're making these changes, you start to show up differently. People will react to you differently. Just the world around almost feels like it starts to conspire to work with you. And it's a really, really amazing feeling. So small steps, repeat, and just keep going. Like I said, now you have the roadmap. You have the hack to reinvent yourself and to become that person that you knew was out there. You just didn't know who she was, but now you do. And I can't wait to see how it shows up and who you choose to be. Okay, so I'm keeping this one sweet and short because it can take some time to go through this, but really break it down into those simple steps. We don't need to overcomplicate it, right? You just go through those simple steps, find those 5 areas, and attack it with fun. Attack it full of energy and excitement about who you are becoming in this journey. I have no joke for you today. Like I said last week, I need you guys to send in some jokes. Oh, I got one. What did the 0 say to the 8? Nice belt. Okay. That is it for me today. I would love it if you would share this with a friend, subscribe, drop me a comment. What was your favorite part about this episode that you feel like you can really implement? That helps me to make even better content for you and really tailor this for you because that's what I want. I really want to get in there with you and help you achieve those things that you want. Or maybe just, we'll have some fun conversations because girl talk is a good time too. With that, thanks for being here with me. I enjoyed my time with you. Go out, make it fun, and make it rich. And I will talk to you next week. Bye-bye.